Okay, I have been busy today and things are going in the garden now, so let's do a quick garden tour and then have a little chat. Okay, the first thing is I'm kind of excited the blackberries are all starting to bloom. And they kind of spread. It's funny. This branch has kneeled over, hit the ground. Now I've got one coming up there. This one's done the same thing. I've got a new plant coming up back here. And over here, the same deal. This is the one I bought that was seedless, and it's made anew. So, kind of excited I'm going to have enough of a blackberry patch that I might actually get something out of it. All right, let's look in the greenhouse. Okay, the greenhouse not as full as it was. I had this bench just covered with stuff and I've put it all out today. But I wanted to show you the peppers I have down here. These are just banana peppers. And I'm going to grow those in the greenhouse this year. They don't do anything until it gets really hot in the summer, and sometimes you want some before that, for if you're making pickles and you want some put in bread and butter pickles. So I'm going to leave them in the greenhouse this year. And I just planted them in cut off milk jugs. Now if they get big enough that I think they need more growing room, all I'm going to do is cut the bottom out of this jug and sit it right here on the soil bed and let them root down into the soil there. I've got my wife's strawberry plants that I'm still babying. They're not big enough that I want to plant them yet. Then this is my patch of radishes, and they've been just going great guns. I think they're getting ready to bulb, and we're going to have radishes in a week or two. All right. Now I did have some misfires this year. I planted 32 marigolds and didn't get a one coming up. So, same way with my pepper seeds. I planted pepper seeds that I had. Didn't get any out of that. I had to go buy some flowers and buy some peppers. But, you know, that's just the breaks. That's how gardening is. You just roll with the punches and do the next thing to get you by. So, let's go out and look. This bed, I put in some collard greens along here, and then at the end I've got some cabbages. And there's the onions. They're perking along, starting to grow a little bit. I put some flowers in the ends. And this is a shadier bed, so that particular flower, begonias, like the shade a little more. So they'll be all right. Now, these are cucumbers. I planted 4 cages of cucumbers. Planted them in good-sized peat pots, and we got 2 plants per pot. Now this is a little misleading. They look a little short, but these things were actually about this tall. So, you know, the mulch is pretty deep, but that's good. That keeps the roots cool, keeps them moist. No problem. Now this bed, this is where my squash is going to go. Don't have it yet. It was one of those things that hasn't done as well. They're still in the greenhouse. Got a few marigolds on each end. And then this is my pole beans. These are Kentucky Wonder pole beans. It tickled me because I watch a couple of British gardeners, and they're always talking about runner beans. Well, finally one of them mentioned that I think in America they call these pole beans. So these are our runner beans. Did the same thing. These things were so tall that they were getting ready to curl around each other. So I had to get them out here and I had to get them planted. And it's a good day because we're just getting little patches of sunshine. It's cool, it's wet out, rained all day yesterday, or most of the day. And it's going to do about the same thing tomorrow. So you won't have any transplant shock. They're going to have a couple of days where they're just going to get a little sun off and on before it starts warming up. Now here's my tomatoes. I planted Flame, I believe. It's a yellow with red streaks through it. And here again, got a few little flowers tucked in. And the flowers, besides the fact that they're pretty, you know, they're going to help attract bees. As I've said before, the marigolds kind of help to repel some insects. But the flowers are going to help attract your pollinators, and that's what you want to do. So, and here again, the tomatoes too were just huge. They were starting to flop over in the greenhouse. So I had to get them out here and I had to get them planted. I've got them in cages, which of course won't be tall enough. But that's okay. In this kind of operation where we've got everything mulched and everything covered, if they grow over the top and you end up with them down on the ground, that doesn't hurt them. Your tomatoes are sitting right on straw, so they don't rot, and it doesn't hurt anything. They still got drainage. Everything's good. All right, the carrots are all up in the buckets. And I've got to thin them yet, but I'm going to let them get a little bit bigger first. So I know, you know, let them all have true leaves. Now this was the corn. And I grew that in seed cells too. And it was a little more of a challenge to get them out of the seed cells than anything else was. With the rest of it, I liked it. I liked growing them in the seed cells. Anytime you plant seeds in your garden, and everybody's done it, you end up with a few that misfire. You have a little mold patch in the row somewhere. Or a few that are just kind of stunty. They just didn't do very good. Well, if you're growing it all in seed cells and then putting it out in the garden, you kind of weed out the plants that aren't as good. You know every plant you're putting in is a decent looking plant. It just makes it nicer, I think. I'm not as good at that as I'd like to be, but I'm working on it. So that's the corn anyway, and there's some little flowers in there too. And this is the asparagus. Most of it came up. I think I had one or two misfires, but for the most part, it's just growing along, and that's all it does. Kind of makes a little fern-looking thing, and you just let it grow. And I'll probably let it grow next summer too. And then the summer after, it'll be ready to start harvesting for a while in the spring when it starts to come up. All right. I wanted to chat for just a minute and thank the people who've been watching these. We haven't been doing it very long, and I'm afraid because of work and everything else, and sometimes the schedule of my producer, we miss a couple of weeks here and there. That we're not able to get them out as frequently as we should. But you guys have watched them. We've got a few subscribers, not a huge amount, but I'm just at the point where it's getting fun, because now I've got about as many people that aren't close friends and family that are subscribing as people that are. And it's fun because, you know, you just to see the variety of people. I have one person in Scotland watching these. I'm not going to mention any names, but it makes it kind of interesting, you know. So I wanted to thank you, and if you want to do something to help, reshare these on your social media. If you want to help, if you saw a video you liked, hey, this is kind of neat and he did something there I'm not used to seeing, I think it's kind of a good idea, or you think it was funny or whatever, share it if you want to, because you've got different friends than I've got. And like I say, we're at the point where it seems like every time we release one, we'll pick up another person or two. So I wanted to put in a thanks, and I want you all to have a quality day.